So another thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to ask you about supplements because I think that also plays a huge role because Chandra was talking now about all the stuff about like the nutrition, all these diets, everything. But I know supplements play a huge role because sometimes we're deficient in certain supplements. And for example, I take something called, I don't know if you know it, called NMN. It's NMN. It's a supplement that was discovered by Dr. David Sinclair, and they did a test in mice, and it actually kind of reverses aging. I mean, you can find so much information of it online. You just Google Dr. David Sinclair, and there's lots about it. And when he first came out with the research, because he's at Harvard, and when he came out with the research, all these supplement companies came up and they all started selling NMN. So I take NMN now. You have to take it first thing in the morning, and you take it with resveratrol, which you have to take with some fat. And there have been studies done on NMN, and even he gives NMN to his 80-year-old father who hikes up mountains and stuff. And what it does is it actually helps us retain more muscle mass and actually reverses aging. So you don't get, or, you don't. I mean, I've been taking it for like a year now, and I don't know if it's working or not personally, but then saying that, I mean, I do look a lot more younger. Most people think I'm in my 20s, even though I'm almost 40 now. So
Yeah. Oh,
maybe
you're the
the
baby.
NMN is working.
It's working. Well, and you're such a beauty.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm not familiar with that. I mean, and I've definitely had a lot of supplement
Mhm.
recommendations over the years, and the challenge that I have is that, I'll look at all the supplements I should be taking, and it's a lot. I can't choke all that down. I've learned certain things to put in my smoothies that are, taste good with a smoothie, like a collagen powder or, that kind of thing. But it's or flax, and we could get into all kinds of smoothie additives here. But I think that it goes back to not really being sure and almost doing it just to cover your bases, or just to think that, oh yeah, that somebody said I should do that because I'm often deficient. I mean, I definitely know people are deficient in D and B12 if they don't eat meat. But outside of that, I don't know how deficient we really are in everything, and if that's just such a individual type of thing that it's hard to recommend certain things. But yeah, I mean, that's again another reason to work with a coach and figure out what you actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. The supplement world, it's just even I'll walk into a Whole Foods and before I know it, I'm like down the rabbit hole. Like, I've got $700 worth of stuff in my cart. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's happening here? Yeah, it's and for me, when it comes to supplements, I do think that we can absolutely go a little bit overboard on them. And I think that you're right. Sometimes that's such a good way of putting it, is that I think we take a lot of stuff to almost like cover our bases because we're just not sure. And we're like, I'm going to throw it. And if it sticks, great. Like no harm, no foul. Right. Um,
We'll pee the rest
yeah,
out.
exactly. Like totally fine. I do think, and I realize that not everybody has the financial means to get to like an integrative, a functional medicine doctor or integrative medicine doctor to actually have a lot of this blood work done to see literally what vitamins you are deficient in. I mean, ideally, that's the best way to go about it. So you're not just wasting money and, sometimes with supplements, you can overdo it. You might be just fine in vitamin B and you are like way, taking too much. So I mean, the amount you'd have to take to like really overdo it, I mean, that's a lot. But I'm just saying it's more so that you'd be taking something that you don't necessarily need. So I definitely think if you can get to the doctor, even, even if you don't have the means, or if you live in an area where you don't have access to I live in Atlanta. So I've got access to a lot of, integrative medical doctors, holistic type doctors that are going to do actual blood work on you, right? Like do actual blood work. But if you don't even have the means for that, at least stay on top of getting to like your gynecologist once a year. They can do some basic tests. Like gynecologists can absolutely test for D, which is a big one. And you're right, most humans are deficient in D. So there's other vitamins and minerals that they can test for. It gets a little bit more expansive when you go to more of the integrative route. But so I would say that, start there. And then I think that for me, when it comes to supplements, supplements, I like to just really stick to the ones that are that either like we can't usually produce on our own. Like a fish oil is one that we well, let me back up. I will also say, first of all, I highly recommend getting things from your food first, right? Like you can't, eat processed and packaged foods, eat a bunch of garbage, and then expect to throw a bunch of pills down your throat and it's going to be effective, right? So the best way to start to make sure you're getting all the vitamins and minerals is eat a more balanced diet, right? So there's that. But when it comes to the supplements, I would say I've got a list of just a handful of ones that I think are pretty important. And I think especially for women over 40. And I definitely think vitamin D is one. That because a lot, again, we have it, getting vitamin D from the sun. A lot of us are not out as much, and it's not as big of a variety from food. So I think vitamin D is one. In my opinion, taking a probiotic, which is a supplement you can take to balance the good and the bad bacteria in your gut. I think that one's important because, especially for women over 40, your gut health actually regulates more of our hormones than a lot of us realize, right? They're just scratching the surface on how incredibly impactful our gut health is on our overall health. And so I think that making sure you have good gut health is important. So I think a probiotic, I think vitamin D. I do think that magnesium is another one that can be really important as well. Or it's I think it's the fourth biggest mineral in the body. It regulates so many different reactions in the body, and it can help with sleep. It can help with, we all know a lot of women over 40 struggle with sleep. It also can help with anxiety and stress and depression. So there's really, and I mentioned fish oil as well. So there's really just like a handful that I think can be really important. Outside of that, I do think it comes down especially to the individual. I am a fan of collagen for sure, just really beefing up the elasticity in the skin and the joints and the bones and all that. So yeah, I do agree though that supplements, you can go down that rabbit hole before you know it. Yeah, exactly.
Hi guys, it's Amanda from Beauty and the Beef podcast. I hope you've enjoyed listening to all our episodes. So if you enjoy the podcast, you can support us by liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. If you're listening to this anywhere else, you can also just like us. We like to know what your opinion is on any of our topics. So please comment, or you can contact us at beautyandthebeat@gmail.com.